Okay, here we are at the Nika Riots, or also known as the Nika Rebellion, and you were supposed to read the um, article that I sent you and complete the worksheet. So just to recap, the Nika Riots was a pretty big deal under Justinian. Um, his rule is being threatened by a rowdy crowd who gets upset about how Justinian is treating people, and they are aware that there are corrupt government officials. That's the two underlying problems. And they're using the potential death of the attempted murderers, if you will. Remember, there were 7 men who were tried with murder, and 2 of them survived the scaffolding when the scaffolding fell. So obviously, on many people's eyes and God's eyes, that they should be allowed to continue to live. Anyways, Justinian agrees to all their demands, but they still continue to just push and push, and which is obviously their mistake. And as mentioned before, Empress Theodora, his wife, is the one who tells him after a week of writing that she refuses to leave, that she would rather die a royal. She has come from the lower class and she is not going back to that. And so she's the one that stands his ground, thus pressuring Justinian to also stand his ground. He calls on his number one general, General Belisarius, who has been campaigning throughout North Africa, who has been campaigning in Italy. So this guy knows what he is doing. He has been waging war for years throughout the continent and northern Africa. So these sports fans who are artisans and merchants and just commoners do not stand a chance against General Belisarius and his armed men. The number that I thought was staggering, despite the fact that 30,000 rioters are murdered in the Hippodrome, was also the fact that General Belisarius and his men are outnumbered 50 to 1. So they have to, kill at least 50 people, and obviously they did that. So it definitely seems like something that would come out of a Hollywood movie. And I also like the fact that I don't like the fact that, but I also thought it was interesting that Justinian was also killed the 2 other people that had claims to the throne, which one of my questions was, why did he do that? Because you have to get rid of anybody that could stand and have a true claim to your throne. If not, they're always going to be coming back to haunt you, especially if you do anything bad. What this does show people is that that Emperor Justinian is willing to do whatever it takes to maintain his throne, and that means killing 30,000 of his own people. He will do that. So obviously you can imagine that the riots and rebellions are pretty much stopped after this point. They know that Justinian means business. This is a picture of General Belisarius, and he will go on, like I said, to conquer parts of North Africa to keep the Germanic tribes out of there. He will go on to take actually over most of Italy. Justinian, that was one of his main goals, was to reunite the Roman Empire. However, quickly after Justinian's death, they will lose control of the Roman Empire, but they are successful in taking it over. And how are they successful? One of the first things that they do is that they utilize a lot of different military tactics. And obviously right here, some of you are probably familiar, maybe from some of the games that you play, with Greek fire. This is just an example of Greek fire. Once it hits, and actually today I don't believe they still know what the recipe for Greek fire is. Once it hits water, it doesn't go out. It has to burn. It literally has to burn itself out. And here are some of the strategies. The military itself is divided into 3 different groups. You have the heavy cavalry. They're made up of people who are carrying like a sword, dagger, bows and arrows, like they're carrying everything. The light horsemen are going to be bowmen with a shield, and then you have heavy foot soldiers who are going to carry the sword, an axe, and oftentimes one of those, if you've ever, I don't know what the official name for it is, with the ball and the chain with the spikes, that's what they're carrying. Their big thing is that they often fake retreats and then turn around and then just slaughter their enemy, who either is in chase of them or has decided to relax for a moment. Also big on ambushes and parlays, which is just like you go in and you have a conference with the enemy and you discuss, okay, here we're going to meet at this day, at this time, and then while they're meeting, they just kill the person that they want to be dead anyways. Going back to Greek fire right here, it's obviously used heavily in the Navy because water won't put it out, and We are still trying to figure out what the recipe is today because it has gotten lost. Just another example of them using the Greek fire there. What did education in the Byzantine Empire look like? Well, if you were living in the Byzantine Empire, obviously if you're wealthy, great, world's your oyster, you get to go, you're going to be educated. They actually had a university in Constantinople where you would be educated. However, most of your education is not necessarily what we consider practical knowledge today. So you're going to be emphasizing studying the classics, such as the Greek and Roman history, the philosophies of Aristotle and Socrates. It's actually a picture of Socrates right here, the guy with the beard on the right. Rhetoric, how to write and speak Latin. And remember, they're speaking Greek, obviously, in the Eastern Roman Empire, now the Byzantine Empire. So they're learning another language, Latin, and philosophy. So not something that they can absolutely use. They will utilize it for laws, but overall, it's not necessarily practical knowledge for the day-to-day. Now, if you're an artisan or skilled laborer, that means somebody who actually has to train and learn a job. They don't actually want you to study. They want you just to focus your time on the craft. What I thought was interesting was that doctors and engineers and architects aren't supposed to really be educated in Latin or other things like that. They're only supposed to focus on the job. They are also supposed to apprentice, which is actually very common. If you guys think about the midwife's apprentice that you read, that's still kind of the mentality. Even doctors today are in reality apprenticing. After they've gone to school, they're always constantly learning. But after they have finished their apprenticeship, then they take on other apprentices. Their job was to do that. If you were a girl, you're obviously, once again, still in the house, still working on, the crafts at home, like how to keep a good house, how to take care of your family, clean, sew, perform other duties of a wife. Nothing too exciting for you on that end. And then we are going to move on to one of the other things that Justinian is known for. Emperor Justinian was known for the Nika revolt. He was known for trying to take back the Roman Empire and reunite it. He was known for trying to spread Christianity, and he's also very famous for the super exciting Justinian Code. And the Justinian Code was that he went through and got rid of all the outdated unchristian laws, because once again, this is somebody who claims that he is the head of the church, kind of like the Pope, and that he is the person who can be not directly related to, but can represent God and Jesus Christ here on earth. So he's the one who gets rid of all the unchristian laws and still has 5,000 Roman laws. That's a lot. So obviously you have a highly educated group of people that are going to be able to sift through all of those laws and make sure that they are being followed. So the code is the 5,000 laws. The digest is just a look at how do Rome's greatest legal thinkers think about certain laws. So this would be like delving into a big philosophy textbook. The institutes would be if you were studying as a law student, you would study that. And the novellae are all the new laws that are added to in addition to the Justinian Code. Some examples of Justinian Code. Number one, obviously, pagan sacrifices are considered murder. This makes sense, especially if you realize, once again, Justinian's goal was to spread Christianity. So another way to spread Christianity is to make, obviously, pagan sacrifices or murder or anything that pagans do would be going against the law. Clearly, murder should be against the law. He establishes Christianity as a formal religion. You can see number 3, you've probably seen that before with the Magna Carta. A person is innocent until proven guilty. And that the father's children, grandchildren remained under his authority until his death. So that means if you guys currently had a grandfather that was still alive or a great-grandfather, he would be the one in control of your household, not your father, which is just kind of an interesting patriarchal type thing to do. And the 4th one is the fact that slavery is not frowned upon, no matter how Christian the Eastern Orthodox Church during this time period is seen to be. Slavery is still allowed. But it does prohibit unrestrained violence towards slaves. So you can't beat your slave into an inch of their life. It is said that some of the slaves living during this time period actually had better lives than people who weren't slaves because they had clothing and reliable food. Some of the slaves were actually even educated, because a lot of the slaves in the Byzantine Empire were people who were taken from other lands, and so they had already been educated or trained in a certain skill, and they could actually make some of their own money as well.